Creation astronomy is basically astronomy as practiced or viewed from within the biblical worldview. And, science is important for a person of faith for many reasons, but perhaps the most important reason is that through science we're learning about God's creation and the many wonderful things that He has made for us. I mean, He made the world in such a way that His own invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature are clearly seen in what has been made. I mean, that's what we're studying when we're studying in science. We're studying the amazing attributes of God. By studying His creation, we're actually learning about God Himself. But of course, as with all science disciplines, we need to evaluate astronomy to be sure that the teachings are consistent with the Bible. Well, astronomy, the word astronomy, what astronomy is the science is involved with observing and explaining the behaviors of astronomical bodies, or what you might call the celestial bodies in the universe, including the solar system or the stars or galaxies. The word astronomy comes from the Greek word astronomia, which literally means law of the stars. See, it is well recognized that the universe follows laws. It is a cosmos, which means an ordered universe, not a chaos. Well, by exploring His creation, we're learning about God's created Word. See, you could argue that God's Word exists in three forms. There's the created Word. He spoke the universe into existence. There's the written Word, the Bible, and we have the living Word. Well, remember, God spoke the universe into existence, and He constantly upholds it by the word of His power. Genesis 1:3 says, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. He spoke, and it became. Psalms 33:6 says, "By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, their starry hosts by the breath of His mouth." The opening book of the Gospel of John states that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Well, the Word of God is evident in the complexity of the universe, which runs just like clockwork. It's not a random, chaotic mess that one would expect to come about naturally, like following a big bang. Well, humans have long struggled to explain the precision of the cosmos through various cosmological models. Nicolas Copernicus, shown here, is responsible for our current model of the solar system and is considered the founder of modern astronomy. He referred to the cosmos as having been built for us by the best and most orderly workman of all. Well, scientists describe the clockwork precision through what are known as scientific laws. Now, these laws are descriptions of observed phenomena that are generally accepted to be true and universal and are often expressed in terms of a single mathematical equation. You might recognize some of these. Sir Isaac Newton devised an equation that calculates the strength of gravity based on the mass and distance between two objects, or his famous second law of motion down in the lower right is force equals mass times acceleration, or Einstein's equals mc squared, his mass energy equivalence formula, or my chemistry students might recognize the ideal gas law, PV equals nRT. Well, it has been argued that it was the belief in God, a lawgiver, that was in fact the basis for the very concept of the scientific law. That the cosmos would be governed by unchanging constants flowed rather freely from a belief in God. Rather than chaos, randomness, and disorder, as one would expect from a universe birthed from a cosmic accident like a big bang, we find clockwork precision governs the cosmos at every level. And in fact, prior to the 20th century, the vast majority of scientists and most of the founding fathers of our various science disciplines believed that the God of the Bible created the cosmos and were very committed to the existence of God, and for most, Christianity. Moreover, because they believed the cosmos was designed, they expected that it would be intelligible to the human intellect, which led to the scientific revolution. Many viewed that by investigating His creation, they were getting to know the mind of God. People like Johannes Kepler, Robert Boyle, Galileo, Gregor Mendel, and Sir Isaac Newton. Well, in addition to being the founder of many of these scientific laws, the first, second, and third laws of motion, Sir Isaac Newton was also the co-discoverer of calculus. He said this about our solar system. He said, "This most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent being." Well, one axiom that is central to the biblical creation worldview is that everything was created for a purpose. Isaiah 45 says, He formed it, the earth, to be inhabited. But what about the other astronomical bodies? Do they have a purpose, biblical or otherwise? The rest of the astronomical bodies were formed on the fourth day of creation. Here from Genesis 1, 14 and 19. Describes the various purposes of those bodies. And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was an evening and morning, the fourth day. Well, it is noteworthy that for 5 days God created the earth and its inhabitants and spent only one day creating the rest of the cosmos. So by extension, you could argue that the earth is probably 5 times more complicated than all the rest of the universe combined. Well, let's look at some of these. The moon was created to be the lesser light to rule the night, as it says in Genesis. Our moon is at the exact right size for the earth. Our moon is the 5th largest in the solar system, but it is by far the largest relative to its planet. For comparison, our moon has a radius of about 27% of the earth. It's about 1/4 the diameter of the earth. The next largest moon relative to a major planet is Triton of Neptune, which has a diameter of just about 5.4% of Neptune. Ours is 27%. It's a massive moon by comparison to any of the other moons in the solar system. The moon's diameter is in fact over 50% greater than that of the dwarf planet Pluto. The moon is at exactly the right distance. The moon provides a gravitational force that creates tides and tidal currents. Close enough so that the gravity creates tides and currents in Earth's oceans, preventing stagnation, but far enough away so the tides are not harmful to us. The moon's size and distance is also just right to stabilize the Earth's tilt, which is responsible for our seasons. So our seasons are caused as the Earth, tilted on its axis, travels in a loop around the sun each year. Summer happens when the hemisphere that is tilted towards the sun. And winter happens in the hemisphere that's tilted away from the sun. As the earth travels around the sun, the hemisphere that is tilted towards or away from the sun changes through time, through the year. We also use the moon as well as the sun and the stars as a calendar. Genesis 1:14 said, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark days and years. Well, we operate on an astronomical clock built by God. The day is one complete rotation of the earth on its axis. The month is the complete revolution of the moon around the earth. The year is the revolution of the earth around the sun. The day, month, and year are all based on astronomical movements. But where do we get the idea for a week? Where did the week come from? What astronomical observations can be used as a basis for the 7-day week? Well, none actually, because the 7-day week is based solely on the Bible. It's one of the 10 commandments. From Exodus 20:11, the 4th commandment, we are to work for 6 days and rest on the 7th, the Sabbath. And this is an important law. Important. We observe the Sabbath. We take a full day of rest. And I can tell you, it's important. God knew we needed it, and so He gave it to us as a command, but it's also a blessing. By taking a day of rest on that day, not only are you giving your body a chance to rest, but you're also pulling away from the world. All the little worldly pursuits, all your little chores that are necessary to establish a little kingdom here. You're kind of pulling away from the worldly pursuits and focusing on those heavenly pursuits. Have a day of rest. Focus on God, learning about Him. Spend some time in prayer. Just pull away from the world for that one day and take a rest. It's important. Well, why are there other planets in the solar system? What purpose do they serve? There are 4 inner terrestrial planets, or what they call rocky planets. That's Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And 4 outer planets that we call the gas giants. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Well, a model of our solar system can help us better appreciate the enormous size of the solar system. The yellow orbits that you see there are the orbits of Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. The sun is 93 million miles away from the Earth. 93 million miles away. A jet traveling at 600 miles per hour would take 17 years to fly from the Earth to the sun. The green orbits, the ones you see here, are the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. If the solar system was reduced to 1/billionth of its size, the Earth on that scale would be about the size of a grape, and Jupiter would be about 5 blocks away. The solar system is big. Everything beyond the orbit of Neptune are referred to as trans-Neptunian objects. A bunch of asteroids are out there. Pluto's 3.7 billion miles away. Traveling at the maximum speed of the Apollo astronauts, it would take 17 years to reach Pluto. The red orbit, the one you see there, is the most distant object that has so far been discovered. That's the orbit of Sedna. Its orbit is estimated to reach somewhere close to 96.5 billion miles and take approximately 12,000 years to complete. The solar system is big. We're still not sure completely what's out there. Well, astronomers have also determined that the other planets stabilize the distance of the Earth from the sun, keeping the Earth from approaching too close or moving too far away from the sun. They also protect the Earth from comets, meteors, and asteroids. God created for us a remarkable solar system positioned around the sun that was perfectly formed and positioned. Our space telescopes and spacecraft have given us close-up views of these planets, shown here, that were only seen before now as pinpoints of light in the sky. It is truly amazing to live in these times when technologies like telescopes and microscopes are allowing us to see parts of God's creation never before seen by human eyes. Truly, God's handiwork has been revealed to us like no other time in the history of the earth. Well, another purpose of the celestial bodies is to serve as signs, according to Genesis 1:14. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years." Well, constellations are groupings of stars that have been historically used to designate an area in space. Identified patterns have been designated as representing animals or people. Virgo, Leo, and Orion were shown there. The knowledge, however, of these seems to have been passed down to every culture on the planet. They seem to predate human history. Well, there are 88 constellations total. The constellations that are of the greatest importance are those that lie on what's called the plane of the ecliptic. The solar system is in a plane, and so the other planets are orbiting us in this plane, and the constellations that are on this plane are those that will interact with the wanderers, the planets that move through the fixed stars of space and interact with these constellations through time, perhaps prophetically read. Some constellations are mentioned in the Bible. Pleiades and Orion are mentioned several times here in Amos. He who made Pleiades and Orion, who turns midnight into dawn and darkens the day into night, who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out over the face of the land. The Lord is his name. Pleiades and Orion are mentioned a couple of times in the book of Job. He is the maker of the bear and the Orion. Can you bind the chains of Pleiades? Well, one important prophecy heralded by stars was the birth of Jesus. Here from Matthew 2. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." Well, as far as we know, these wise men, these Magi, came from Persia, a great distance away, a travel that likely took several years. Well, although there is a tendency, even amongst creationists, biblical creationists, to search for a natural cause to events in the Bible generally, such as the star or the parting of the Red Sea when Moses led the people away from the Egyptians, historically, creationists have sadly looked for natural causes or sources of things that are otherwise miraculous, and that's been the case for the Star of Bethlehem too. Many have argued for a conjunction of planets, an alignment of planets that caused a star to look brighter than those planets normally look. But that's now how this reads to me. When I read this, I'm reading a supernatural event. And a star that likely has never been seen before, never been seen again, like that star was. There's a lot of things about this that speak to it being non-natural. The leading of the star itself, from Persia all the way to Jerusalem and then on up to Bethlehem. The inability of Herod's servants to see or follow the star, even while the wise men saw it easily. The star stood over where the child was and clearly pointed to a particular home in the village of Bethlehem. One important point I think should be made here, and that is how close Bethlehem is to Jerusalem. See, they stopped at Jerusalem and talked to Herod, and they knew that the child was going to be born in Bethlehem, and well, anyone could tell you how to get to Bethlehem from Jerusalem. It's right down that road. It's in fact only about 6 miles away. And from the hilly regions in Jerusalem today, you can actually see Bethlehem. These cities have grown a little larger, and the closest one was only like a couple of miles away. Where Martha and Lazarus is only a couple of miles away. In antiquity, those towns were fairly short, fairly close to one another. 6 miles seems to be fairly normal, 6 miles apart, because that is the distance that caravans could reach in a day, was like 6 miles. Anyway, Bethlehem's only about 6 miles away. Anyone could point to the road and say, that's how you get to Bethlehem right there. You need a star to appear before them and lead them to Bethlehem. Certainly, it led them to a place specifically in Bethlehem where the child was found. And when I read this, I read a supernatural event. And so I hope you read the same way. Well, perhaps the most important purpose of the heavens is summarized in Psalms 19, to reveal to us just how big and powerful our God is, spoken here. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. Psalms 56 says, the heavens proclaim his righteousness, for he is a God of justice. Well, let's review just how big and powerful our God is. The earth that we cherish so much is really very tiny when we compare it with the other astronomical bodies in the solar system. Note how big Jupiter is in comparison on this diagram. Jupiter's diameter is more than 11 times that of the Earth. 1,300 Earths could fit within its volume, but even Jupiter is dwarfed when compared to the Sun. Jupiter is about 1/10 the diameter of the Sun. The Sun is an enormous fireball, a ball of plasma or charged gas that provides the Earth with light and heat through thermonuclear fusion reactions. It's fusing hydrogen atoms to make helium, and huge, enormous amounts of heat and light are produced in these reactions. Well, these reactions cause enormous explosions. We call these solar flares that grow and erupt continuously. By the way, these are real images of the sun taken from NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory. These are real pictures of the sun. Look at that solar flare that you see right there. Well, when compared to the size of the Earth, these solar flares help illustrate just how big the sun is. Note how much bigger the Earth, how much smaller the Earth is compared to one of those solar flares right there. The sun is 109 times the diameter of the Earth. 1.3 million Earths could fit inside the sun. The sun is a very, very special and unique star in many respects.
93 million miles from Earth, sunlight is our main source of energy. Energy leaves the sun at the ferocious rate of 5 million tons of matter per second. This goes on day and night, year after year.
There are many examples of God's power in nature. The whole universe came about by His Word. Psalm 33:9 says that God spoke and it was finished. He commanded and it stood fast. As one good example, consider our nearest star, the sun. The sun gives off more energy in 1 second than mankind has produced since Adam and Eve. The sun actually provides its energy by nuclear fusion, converting hydrogen into helium on a grand scale. And this is true of all the stars. In our own Milky Way galaxy, we estimate 100 billion stars. And beyond that, in deep space, we see 100 billion more galaxies. One cannot begin to grasp the kind of energy and power that we're talking about, all created by God's Word.
To gain perspective, with the aid of computer animation, let's now travel with the Earth to the Sun at 100 times the speed of light. From this view, we begin to appreciate the magnitude of our own star. Over 1 million Earths would fit inside the Sun. Yet our Sun is an average-sized star. Many stars in our own galaxy dwarf it. Arcturus is the fourth brightest star in the night sky. Though 200 trillion miles away, this orange giant is visible to the naked eye. By moving our sun next to Arcturus, we can grasp its immensity. Arcturus is 100 times brighter, with a radius 20 times greater than the sun's. Yet even Arcturus appears small when compared with the supergiant Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse has a radius 600 times that of our sun. A reddish star, it shines a remarkable 60,000 times brighter than the sun. However, even Betelgeuse is not the largest star in our galaxy. Several red supergiants in the Milky Way are even larger, some with a radius 1,500 times that of our sun.
Well, one of the things in creation that I think really exhibits God's power is the power released in stars. The sun, it releases more energy in 1 second than 1 billion major cities on the earth, if there were 1 billion, would produce in a year. And that's just released in 1 second. You can imagine that. And of course, there are stars that are even more powerful than the sun. And just imagine all that power, all those stars, billions of stars in our own galaxy, billions of stars in other galaxies. And yet the Bible describes the creation of all that energy, all that power with the single phrase, He made the stars also.
When we consider that these ratios present only a sliver of our Creator's power, certainly we can agree with the psalmist when he exhorts, "Let all the earth fear the Lord." Of course, the stars reveal more than raw power. Without the light of the sun, all life on earth would soon perish. The sun's life-giving energy provides a constant reminder of our Creator's steadfast love, the God who shines His gift of light on all.
Sun is powerful. And, those thermonuclear fusion reactions from the sun would be harmful to the earth if God had not provided us with a special protective shield. See, the earth has a magnetic field for reasons other than just to provide us a navigational compass. The magnetic field creates a magnetosphere, a shield that protects the earth from cosmic radiation. And the earth is special in many other ways, allowing for the presence of complex life. For example, it spins at just the right speed. A 24-hour period gives us darkness for a time, which is a good thing for rest, but if it were slower, like 10 days, for example, we would have long, dark, cold periods. Faster would cause violent winds. The axial tilt gives us moderate seasons, Our circular orbit gives us climate stability. The Earth is the perfect distance from the sun, allowing us to have liquid water. Perfect temperature. Water is so important for life. All of these factors and many more are necessary for Earth's habitability because, as God said through the prophet Isaiah in Isaiah 45:18, the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made it, he hath established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Well, the earth is covered in water. Lots of water. The water, we have the waters above, that would be the atmospheric or water vapor, and the waters below. Oceans cover about 71% of the Earth's surface, and water is truly a wonder of chemistry. There is no molecule in all of chemistry like water. There are molecules the same size and the same polarity, but they behave very differently than water. Water is extremely bizarre molecule. It is one that is very much required for life. It has a high specific heat. This is the heat that's required to raise 1 gram of substance 1 degree C. It takes an enormous amount of heat to heat up water. It has enormous latent heat. This is the amount of heat that's required to do a phase change, to change water from solid to liquid or vapor. It has a high surface tension. It's the universal solvent because of its polarity. All of your chemical reactions, your biochemical reactions take place dissolved in water. And it's also able to participate in hydrogen bonding. Without water, there would be no organic molecules. Well, there are also objects in the cosmos much bigger than stars like our sun. For example, we have these nebula. Within the Orion constellation, we find one of these gas and dust clouds we call nebulae. This one is massive. 13 light years is the Orion constellation. Traveling at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. It would take you 13 years to get from one side of one side of this nebula to the other side. Well, these nebulae are gas and dust clouds that are believed to be the remnants or the remains of stars that have exploded or gone supernova. Here's another. This is the Eagle Nebula, even more massive than the Orion Nebula. It spans 50 by 70 light years across. I'm going to circle one little portion for you there. That little bitty part that I've circled for you there is called the ferry of the Eagle Nebula. That part right there alone is 10 light years tall. 8.5 million times larger than our solar system. That little piece of the nebula right there. But there are objects even bigger than nebulae out there. Because see, all the stars, star clusters, and all of these nebulae visible from Earth are all located in our own galaxy, the Milky Way, the center of which is shown here over Monument Valley, Utah, that concentration of stars that you see right there. Well, the Milky Way is a barred spiral galaxy, as it's called, believed to be about 100,000 light years across and contain an estimated 300 billion stars. Our solar system is believed to be located about right there where I put that circle between two of those arms in what's called the galactic habitable zone. Well, for a size comparison, if our galaxy was the size of North America, our entire solar system would fit inside of a coffee cup. Now, if we left the Milky Way traveling at the speed of light, it would take 100,000 years before the full shape of the galaxy would start to come visible. See, the Milky Way is large, but if it was viewed from the distance depicted here in this video, it would appear motionless. But see, galaxies aren't motionless. But from this distance, a whole human lifespan would pass with no apparent change. However, galaxies are spinning. See, this is a spiral galaxy. And it is estimated that our solar system is traveling around the center of the Milky Way galaxy at an estimated speed of 500,000 miles per hour. See, our solar system is traveling around the galaxy at an estimated rate of 500,000 miles per hour. Watch this. This is what's called the helical model of the solar system. With our sun, that star, traveling around the Milky Way, dragging the planets with it in tow. And that's you. on one of those little specks right there, traveling through the Milky Way galaxy, 500,000 miles per hour, and your hair is not even blowing. Amazing. To think that the stability that we have right here, considering that, is going on. Wow. Well, galaxies are massive structures, many with hundreds of billions of stars. One galaxy can be seen with the naked eye if you know right where to look. It appears like a fuzzy star in the night sky, but it's in fact not a star. It's a whole entire galaxy. This is the Andromeda galaxy. And this one is massive. Much larger than our own galaxy. 2.5 million light years away, it's estimated to be. More than double the size of the Milky Way. More than 220,000 light years across, and estimated to contain as many as 1 trillion stars. This is the highest resolution image taken of the Andromeda galaxy by NASA. This was released in 2015 just to illustrate the immensity of the stars that are found there. As we keep zooming further and further and further into Andromeda, we see no spaces, just stars. This is a spiral galaxy called the Whirlpool Galaxy that can maybe help us visualize what our galaxy looks like from a distance. This is about 30 million light years away, though. At 300 million light years away, you can actually get a photograph of several galaxies in the same field of view. This is the famous Stevens Quintet. 5 galaxies in the same field of view. Well, when NASA aimed the Hubble Space Telescope on a region of space that contained no astronomical objects, this was a region of space that contained no astronomical objects at what they call keyhole space. It was a piece of space the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length. They put the Hubble Space Telescope there and left it there for hours. And when they resolved the image, what they found was this. Instead of space having no astronomical objects, that piece of space having no objects, what it in fact had was filled with galaxies. Every single object you see on this picture is a galaxy. And they estimated that this image must have about 10,000 galaxies in it. When the number of galaxies in that area of space, again, an area of space the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length, when that was extrapolated over the entirety of the night sky, astronomers estimated that there must be at least 100 billion galaxies with an average of 100 billion stars each. NASA recently released this new map of the galaxies. Everything you see there is a galaxy. Well, there was a striking outcome of this mapping project that revealed that the galaxies were not randomly distributed. They weren't randomly and evenly distributed across the universe as they expected. The absence of what they call homogeneity in their distribution lies in stark contrast to the expectations of the Big Bang Theory. Many galaxies, as you can see, seem to be gravitationally bound together to form clusters, which are themselves seem to be aligning across even larger scale structures, forming what they call the cosmic web. They call it the cosmic web. Well, our universe is estimated to be at least 92 billion light years across, and again containing an estimated 100 billion galaxies with about 100 billion stars each. And then consider the word of the psalmist that said that God counts the number of the stars. He gives names to all of them. You might ask, why did God create such vastness within the universe? Well, the Bible gives us the answer, doesn't it? To declare His glory and righteousness, and to give us a hint of who our Heavenly Father really is. The universe is vast beyond comprehension.
The visible universe contains more than 100 billion galaxies. Each of these galaxies has a diameter millions of trillions of miles wide, and each contains hundreds of billions of stars. Though incomprehensible, it is now estimated that the universe holds over 1 billion trillion stars. Long before the introduction of the telescope, Scripture declared that man would be unable to determine the exact number because there are so many. Of course, the Creator knows the exact number, And Psalm 147 declares that he even calls each star by name. The power to create each of these stars, the wisdom to maintain their stellar courses, and the incredible beauty displayed throughout the universe combine to affirm the Creator's majesty and care.
God has made the universe so vast. All man can do is just marvel at this universe, the vastness of it. And I say, God, you are so great. And I think of what David said, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have made, what is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that you should visit him?
Well, it's estimated that there are over 100 billion stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. It's estimated that there are over 100 billion galaxies in the universe, which the Bible tells us that as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are God's ways above our ways, and his thoughts above our thoughts. So chew on that for a little bit. Think about how big the universe is compared to the earth, which is just the head of a pin by comparison.
Just how big is God's universe? Traveling at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, we could circle the Earth 7 times in 1 second. However, to travel across the known universe at the speed of light would take 28 billion years or more. Today, most astronomers acknowledge that the universe appears to be expanding. This also agrees with the Bible, which says God stretches out the heavens like a curtain.
There are some examples in the Bible of scientific foresight. One example that comes to mind in particular is in Isaiah 40:22, which talks about God stretching out the heavens as a tent or as a curtain. And you might say, well, that is written in a poetic way, so we got to be careful. And yet there are at least 10 other places in the Bible where it talks about this stretching out of the heavens. And that's something that was only discovered in the 20th century, when we found that indeed all the galaxies appear to be, or virtually all of them appear to be, moving away from each other, as if the entire universe is being, lo and behold, stretched out and expanded, just like the Bible says. And that's obviously not something that people could have observed in ancient times. That's something that had to have been revealed to them from above.
Unimaginably large, containing spectacular galaxies and stunning nebulae. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God.